Today's session is going to be on the duties and responsibilities of the recording secretary as set forth in the ATU Constitution and general laws, and as well in each local's bylaws. My name is Robert Malofsky. I'm the general counsel to the ATU, and it's my pleasure to present the following program. In addition to the slides that you will be viewing as part of this discussion, we have a separate booklet where these pages have been put together with some additional forms that would be available upon request. That booklet includes separate copies of sample minutes, meeting minutes, and a template that may be of use to the local union recording secretary. The standard statement of duties for a recording secretary is set out under Section 13.11 of the ATU Constitution and general laws. And it provides that it shall be the duty of the recording secretary to keep a correct account of the proceedings of the local union, that's the minutes, to call the roll of officers, carry on all correspondence, and perform such other duties as pertain to this office, and to deliver to the local union at the expiration of his or her term of office all property entrusted to his or her care. The reference to carry on all correspondence involves mainly the record keeping of the incoming and outgoing letters, bills, and other materials, other than that which would be the responsibility of the secretary, treasurer, and president. So the main role of the recording secretary is, number one, serves as an officer of the local union, as an executive board member, and in some locals as a member of the grievance committee. Because the recording secretary is an officer and executive board member, he or she has the same fiduciary responsibilities as the other officers within the local to ensure that the funds are managed and administered in the best interests of the local and the membership, and to ensure and ask appropriate questions if any issues come up with respect to the operation of the local and its adherence, and the officers' adherence to local union bylaws and the Constitution. So let's move into some more detail. The recording secretary's specific duties include preparing and maintaining accurate minutes of executive board, general membership, and special meetings, to keep accurate records of the motions raised and the actions taken, and the amendments, reference to debate and discussion, and of course the final vote on any such motions. At the start of every meeting, it usually is the responsibility of the recording secretary to take the roll and to manage the sign-in sheet, and be sure to obtain a copy at the end of the meeting as a document that showing that which members attended the meeting. As I said earlier, the carrying on or maintaining office correspondence records and preparing correspondence as directed by the local president. So obviously the role of the financial secretary and the president or the vice president involve direct responses to incoming mail or other formal documents, and it's the responsibility usually of the recording secretary to just manage the paper flow and to maintain the official office records entrusted to that person. Sometimes a local union's bylaws may provide that the recording secretary is charged with preparing ballots for local union elections. This can at times raise questions if the incumbent officer is indeed running for office, and so care should be taken to either process the final ballot preparation through the election committee and seek approval among the other officers as well. The most important duty of the recording secretary is taking the minutes at all general membership special, and executive board meetings. What I want to highlight today is those elements that should be included in every meeting minutes to create a correct and accurate record of the events. The first section of a meeting minutes should include the following. And again, there are forms and templates that could be used to make this easier. So it should list the kind of meeting that is being held, whether it's general, special, or executive board, or grievance in certain cases. Of course, the date, time, and place of the meeting, the name of the presiding officer and the secretary at the meeting, the approximate number of members present, whether a quorum was established, and the formal action taken on the minutes of the previous meeting. One of the more challenging roles for a recording secretary is to track the discussion and actions taken with respect to motions raised and acted on by the membership at a meeting. So the minutes must contain the motions proposed and reference the debate and any amendments raised to them, with each motion summarized in a separate paragraph. Care should be taken, and the maker of the motion should be asked if there is any doubt as to the exact terms used for the motion, because the motion in the minutes must include the exact wording of the motion made, as well as the proposed amendments, and finally whether it was approved or passed or failed. Details of any debate over the motion can vary from based on the practice of an individual recording secretary. Sometimes they will include the name of the person rising to speak and whether he or she was in support or not of the motion, or any issues or questions that may have been raised. And again, you make sure that the minutes reflect the vote count of any final action on the motion. And in the course of the meeting, the minutes should reflect any points of order or special rulings called upon by the chair of the meeting. The minutes should also contain the following local union business reports, and these may be attached if they are prepared or summarized in the minutes if not. And those documents should include the report of the officers as given at those meetings, copies of any formal documents presented, including handouts, copies of the financial records, or financial report, and reports of delegates and or standing committee chairs. And finally, at the end of the meeting, the date of time of adjournment should be noted. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the minutes book. An official copy of the minutes should be entered into a minutes book maintained by the recording secretary. The minutes book is the property of the local union and not the recording secretary, and it should, if the local union has an office, the minutes book should be kept there, and without exception, the minute book must be returned to the local union at the end of the recording secretary's term in office. For some smaller locals, they may maintain it on an interim basis at home as they finalize the minutes and then include them in the ongoing minutes book records. By way of summary, I want to just list the top 10 questions that should be answered in every minute, by the minutes. At this point, I want to highlight the following 10 questions that should be answered by the minutes. The type of meeting it was, who attended, who did not attend, that is, which officers were absent, not members, what topics were discussed, what was decided, what actions were agreed upon, who was to complete those actions and by what time frame if stated, and were there any materials distributed and attached to the minute, to be attached to the minutes. Is there anything important the reader of the minutes should know, and is there a follow-up meeting scheduled? Some local union bylaws provide that the executive board may constitute the grievance committee In that case, the recording secretary must also take minutes of the grievance committee meetings as they deliberate over specific grievances, including recommendations to the membership on whether such grievances should be submitted to arbitration. As an example, where grievance committees are established in a local union bylaws, they may state as follows. It shall be the duty of the executive board to supervise and direct the management of the local union. They shall constitute the grievance committee and shall investigate all disputes and questions between the members of the local and the company and report their findings to regular meetings of the local union. What you now see on the screen is the first of several slides that show a model format that may be used for preparing your minutes. And as you can see, it provides space to be filled in to include all of the information that we previously covered: the date of the meeting, the type of meeting, who was chairing of the meeting, and where it was held and during what time period, the officers and those members in attendance based on the sign-in sheet. Members not in attendance really refers to those executive officers who may not have been at the meeting. And the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting is also included in the first portion of any meeting minutes. Again, a sample minute format should include space to reference officer reports by the principal officers, the president, business agent, financial secretary, or others, board and committee reports that may be given, motions and the actions on the motions as we discussed earlier, including whether they passed or failed. Here too there is a sample format that may be relied upon that shows the new business after the approval of the minutes, the motions made and raised and their actions taken, and any announcements issued at the meeting at time of adjournment, and then a space for signature and approval by the recording secretary, subject to final approval at the next meeting. I want to call attention again to what appears in some local union bylaws. Some local union bylaws provide that the recording secretary, as I said earlier, may assemble the ballots for the local elections. Absent this provision in the bylaws, the recording secretary should not do so, especially where the incumbent is seeking re-election, because in those cases it may create possible conflicts. If that may or may not be an issue in your local. Finally, I want to close by saying that a lot of the action at a meeting has to do with the processing of motions and the rules of order. And if any questions arise with respect to how motions should be handled and the process for conducting the meetings, I would recommend that you consult with Robert's Rules, and of course, for any special issues, contact the International Office. Thank you.